So if you got some extra disposable income and you've got an old iPad and you're like, maybe I can upgrade this old iPad, and you're maybe thinking about getting the Pros, well, do you go with the 11-inch or do you go with the 12.9-inch? The only question that I think you need to ask yourself when trying to choose between these two different size devices is, are you going to be using the iPad more for work or for play? At MobileReviewsEh, Monty and I base our reviews on actual usage. Now, this video seems a little late, but in order to do a proper video, I need to properly use these devices. Because if I don't, that just doesn't make any sense for me to make a video about what I think is the better device. Honestly, videos that come out the moment that the device is released as a buyer's guide, I see those videos as, 5-star Amazon reviews whose comments about the product is, well, looks great. So back to the question, are you using the iPad more for work or for play? In short, from my perspective, the more work you do on your iPad, the bigger your screen should be. This is based on my experience with the 11-inch iPad Pro from 2018 and the 12.9-inch iPad from the 2020. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to go through the pros and cons for each iPad to back up why I think that the 12.9-inch is better for work and the smaller one's better for play. And I'll also talk about which one works better with the Apple Pencil as well. Now, I will admit that in this video, the 12.9-inch section is going to be way longer than the 11-inch because, well, what's good on the big one is most likely going to be bad on the small one, so you just kind of have to fill in the holes that way. Now, when I unboxed the 12.9-inch iPad Pro about a month ago, I was completely floored. In a really good way. The screen on this device is spectacular. More specifically, the size of the device is spectacular. Now, it may not sound like it, but the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is about the same size as a normal piece of paper. Letter sized, not A4. With that size, I felt that it was more natural for me to use the Apple Pencil with this device and just treat it like a piece of paper. Now, I'm a little bit old school as I do my best thinking when I'm jotting stuff down and doodling a bit, so it just seemed really natural for me to do that with an iPad with the same size as a piece of paper. Now, I can't stress how much this seemingly small difference has made my day-to-day usage of this product. Ever since getting the device, I actually haven't carried around a notebook with my bag because all the note-taking I've been doing is on my iPad. And this is something that I can't say with the 11-inch iPads as well as the older 9.7-inch iPads or the regular iPads. Now, with the larger screen, Apple was able to incorporate a full-size keyboard with the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which means your hands won't be as cramped during extended work sessions. For those who like numbers, the distance between the keys remains unchanged as they are both a smidge below 4 millimeters, while each key is about 1 millimeter smaller on the 11-inch. So each key on the 12.9-inch iPad is going to be about 13% bigger than the ones on the 11-inch. Honestly, after using this keyboard on this device, the smaller iPads, their keyboards just seem like novelty devices. Now, I also found that the speakers on the larger iPad Pro were larger, I'm guessing because there's larger speakers on the smaller iPad. So if you're either hard of hearing or you do a lot of stuff without headphones, you are going to enjoy the fuller sound that the iPad Pro has to offer. Now, for my quick decibel test, I measured a difference of about 2 decibels. So it is kind of noticeable. Now, for me personally, I do a bit of gaming on my iPad, and right now, my current crush addiction is Call of Duty Mobile, and I actually notice a big difference in how I play depending on the size of my device, which is kind of crazy. I found that having this bigger screen made sniping way easier. I'm assuming that everything just seems bigger, which makes it way easier to pwn noobs. Now, as a side note, I do play a handful of games at night. So if you want to come play with me, look up my clan. It's just the MREH clan, and just apply and I'll probably just accept you. Now, when it comes to the downside of this product, well, the first one is that it's more expensive. The second one, which is probably the most noticeable, is the size. Well, duh. Now, despite being only 2 inches larger along the diagonal, about 2 inches, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is almost 40% heavier than the 11-inch iPad Pro, which means that prolonged usage with your hands, if you're not putting it down on anything, is going to get really noticeable. And it's going to get even more noticeable as you're lying down with this iPad over your face, and then it just slaps you across the face because you drop it on your face. Getting back to the gaming thing, sure, I get the pwn noobs way better on this device, but I don't get to play as long. So do you play longer and don't do as well, or do you do much better and just play fewer games? Dealer's choice. Now, another downside with this giant screen is that, well, because it's bigger and you're tapping everywhere still, there's more fingerprinting, and I definitely noticed how greasy my screen got on this gigantic iPad. It didn't even faze me that I could leave my smaller iPad, like the screen uncleaned, just like grouty for months at a time. And it wouldn't really bother me because it was just like, it's such a small screen. But with this giant thing, you're like, I need to wipe it down almost every single day. And it's not like you just take your sleeve and just be like, yeah, that's good enough. It's so big, you have to kind of take it to the sink and, you know, rinse it down with soap. The last thing I noticed as a downside is that the Face ID camera doesn't work as well on this 12.9-inch iPad. Now, if you're sitting on the John and you're just like scrolling through news, that distance, you actually have to like lean back a bit in order for you to unlock your device. I've never had this issue with any other device with Face ID. This is the first time I've encountered it, and I'm guessing it's because this device is meant to be unlocked from a further distance. You know, it's like a laptop. You're putting it down in front of you. It's 2.5 feet away from your face. It's optimized to unlock your face at that distance. So those are the pros and cons for the gigantic iPad. Let's talk about the cons for the smaller iPad. Now, before we get to the much shorter section for the 11, because, well, what's good on the big one is probably gonna be bad for the small one, and vice versa. I've got different types of screen protectors that I've been testing, different cases that I've been using, so do check out those videos if you're interested in knowing what the best products are for these tablets. If you're watching this video for the first time, this is part of the isolation video series where I produce one video every single day for 120 days while everybody's sitting around diddling their thumbs in this pandemic. Now, when it comes to iPad, smaller is generally better sometimes because it's easier to use and dropping it on your face doesn't hurt as much. Honestly, every single time I switch back to this 11-inch, I think to myself, that's a really nice size. It's so light. But then every single time I'm switching back to the 11-inch, I'm not working. I'm neither reading or playing a game. The 11-inch iPad Pro seems more like a book to me, a magazine, as you can easily hold the device with one hand and still be doing something else. You could do the same with the 12.9-inch, but honestly, a small gust of wind feels like it's gonna knock the device out of my hand. The smaller device also means that it's much more portable and it doesn't get in the way as much. For example, when I'm doing food prep, I like to have the TV show going that I've watched running in the background, just as, you know, background noise. It's easier to set up the 11-inch almost anywhere in the kitchen, whereas in 12.9-inch, you need to be really aware of where that gigantic pane of glass is. The smaller size and the smaller screen also means that one-handed typing on your device is way easier. So if you're moving around a lot, you know, if you're building applications where you need to go collect data, log data with an iPad, the smaller one is definitely better. Now, when it comes to gaming, unless you're playing stuff with a controller, having the bigger screen isn't necessarily better because of the additional weight. The 12.9-inch gets heavy so much quicker. Honestly, I'm not adverse to lifting heavy things, and I find myself getting tired after a while of carrying these iPads around, playing video games for hours on end. Now, as a side note, with the Call of Duty Mobile, with this iPad, I found myself using a light machine gun more often than not than compared to the bigger one, which is being used as a teleprompter, which was sniping. Anyways, ultimately, I think this 11-inch is more of a sidekick device than a standalone device, because you don't always need your sidekick when you're going out. Batman doesn't always need Robin, Iron Man doesn't always need Captain America, and Monty doesn't need me all the time. And that's not a bad thing. It just really depends on how you need or what you want to do with it. Honestly, the only thing I use my laptop for is really Final Cut Pro X. And if I could do Final Cut Pro X on an iPad, I could probably get away with using a big 12.9-inch iPad. I don't think I could do that with the 11-inch, and that's not a bad thing. It just, again, goes back to what you really need to use the iPad for, work or play. Now, when it comes to cons, well, the keyboard is sufficient for, you know, a quick jaunt to the coffee shop, but anything that requires a solid couple of hours, the iPad 11 Pro's pint-sized keyboard doesn't really hold up. Everything, it's very cramped, I found. You know, your wrists are doing this. Now, during my time with this device, there were days where if I didn't need to use it for work or like, you know, videos, it would just sit in my bag. Usually the battery would be dead, and it was really on the weekends or days where I needed to film a video that this iPad would come out. There was a time where I misplaced my Apple Pencil. I think it was like 2 months. Yeah, it didn't even bother me because I didn't use this device with this device a whole lot. It just didn't make any sense to me. And one of the reasons why I realized that happened was because with the iPad 11-inch, you will always hit an edge within a couple of strokes of writing, and that doesn't happen as much on the 12.9-inch. So to me, this seems more like jotting down notes really quickly rather than, for me, you know, fully exploring my thoughts and just doodling and writing everything down. So that's all I got for this video. Again, if you found this buyer's guide helpful, subscribe to the channel. Help me out by getting all your accessories through my links. I've got a ballistic glass on this one, and I've got a flexible hybrid glass screen protector on this that I'll be revealing pretty soon. And I got a ton of keyboards coming. So many keyboards. They're not cheap. Under normal circumstances, I produce one video a week, but because we're in this pandemic and everyone's diddling their thumbs watching different things on media hubs, I'm producing one video a day. So it's a lot of work, but it's gonna be worth it in the end. Thanks for watching. I'm not sure how the Google Docs document did not save, so I've added more stuff to the script, but I just copied it over and it's not there. But it isn't definitely in this one.